I have got some ghost stories for you.
I feel something crawl into the bed with me and it starts to spoon me.
There was a time where I would be in bed falling asleep and I would hear my name being called. Different voices call my name.
Poof, the person disappeared right in front of our eyes.
And we were both like, did you see that?
There was this figure of a woman. Her skin was bluish and her hands were clawed and her mouth was wide open.
So that is my ghost story.
Hi, and welcome to Haunted AF, the podcast of real ghost stories told by real people. We are your hosts. I'm Julie Fisk.
And I'm Rebecca Black.
Were you just trying to spoon me?
I was trying to spoon you. Thank you for noticing.
Okay, coming up, we've got a nurse who encountered some ghost soldiers, a
Cool.
poltergeist who might actually be trying to kill people.
Okay.
And stories from a realtor who is known for selling haunted
This
houses.
sounds like it's going to be a great episode. But first, we have a quick reminder. There are plenty of ways that you can support our little baby podcast here.
That's right.
Please join our Patreon page. It's just $5 a month. We've been posting stories there and weekly pre-games for years. There's literally 4 or 5 years worth of content.
Yeah.
All new to you if you subscribe today.
Yes.
It's like an infomercial. I went into straight, let me pitch you. You can also purchase some of our adorable and affordable merch at hauntedaf.com in the online shop. And of course, the best way to support us is by sending us your scary stories, which we're recording weekly now. So we need those. hauntedafpodcast@gmail.com.
We need them desperately.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like as soon as a good story comes in, I'm like, thank you. We're using that. Okay. Speaking of which, this email comes from Yvonne. Yvonne, who actually purchased one of our upside down haunted AF caps. Yeah.
Thank you, Yvonne.
So Yvonne says, my Aunt Peggy never had kids, but she was like a second mom to me and my sister. She spent most of her life in East Texas in a home built with wood from my grandfather's sawmill in the 1930s.
That's freaking cool.
That's awesome. My aunt had cerebral palsy, though it was mild. She walked regularly and mowed the acre around that house until she fell and broke her hip in her 60s. Dang. After that, she was in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. In 2020, at the height of the COVID shutdown, my sister and I stayed with her while she was in hospice.
Oh,
she was in so much pain. She would just scream out while we all stood around her, unable to comfort her. One night I was trying to sleep when I started hearing whispers. I thought it was the floor fan, so I turned it off, but the whispers continued. I walked out to the living room where my sister was and asked, "Are you hearing that?" "The whispers?" she asked. "Yeah, I hear them." Suddenly, it was like the whispers were on the move. They flew down from the ceiling and directly in front of me and then went out the door.
Wow.
Maybe my grandmother and grandfather were there that night trying to convince my aunt to let go. My aunt died around 10 a.m. on Earth Day that year. It was just 1 week after her 84th birthday. Unfortunately, due to financial reasons, my sister and I had to sell the home to a cousin.
Oh.
It was one of the most difficult things we had to do. On the last day of packing up the house, my sister told me she wished that we'd get some kind of sign from our ancestors to let us know it was okay to sell the house. I told her that I hadn't received a sign either and was worried about the same thing. We went back to packing and she said, "Sis, look." I turned around and she said, "It's Peggy's Cardinal." We had taken Peggy's solar operated Cardinal from the front porch and put it in a box, but now it was on and it was flashing all kinds of colors, not just the red that it normally flashed.
Oh.
She said, "It's our sign." And I started to cry. I took that Cardinal home and to this day, it only flashes red when it's on. And again, that's from Yvonne.
And when you say cardinal, it's like a bird, right? You know, cardinals are a sign of people coming back from beyond to say hello.
Yes.
So I think that's weird on so many levels.
Yeah.
Like good weird.
They say that when you see a cardinal, it's like a relative checking on you or something.
Have I told you my cardinal story?
No, tell me.
I always chime in. Something triggers like a memory that I've forgotten.
No, I love it.
We were in East Texas visiting my in-laws. They had planted a tree in my husband's grandmother's honor, who had passed away not all that long ago. And as we were sitting and talking about the tree, a cardinal flew and landed on the tree.
Oh, perfect.
So me and my mother-in-law are sitting there. We're like, "Oh my God, cardinal, like it's definitely her. People need to say hi." And then I made a comment. I'm like, "Wouldn't it be funny if Meemaw Durham, which was her mom who had passed away, if another cardinal popped up?" And I'm not even kidding you. Another cardinal popped up and there were two sitting on the same tree. I know.
That's wonderful.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Send us those kinds of stories too. I think those are amazing.
I just slammed the desk. Do you want to repeat that last
No,
part?
because I scraped my ring on the mic a minute ago. So we're a disaster. Y'all bear with us. Sorry.
Okay. So we have asked everybody to send us their scary book, movie, or show reviews. And we actually got one from Joe. And Joe says, "One of my favorite all-time scary movies is Let's Scare Jessica to Death."
Have you seen that one?
I have not even heard of this.
No,
Have
me
you?
neither. No.
I saw it when I was a kid and it stayed with me. It's sort of a subtle, scary, but it's a bit disturbing. I watched it several times over the years and find it spooky every single time. There's no gore, not in your face scary, but I highly recommend it. By the way, with respect to merch, you guys should have enamel pens.
That is a great idea.
I'm a knitter and knitters love a pen. We can put them on our project bags. Just a suggestion. I think you ladies are great, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. I know. I think we're going to have to make some of those.
Okay, I'm down.
Yeah, I like that idea. All right. This next story comes from someone who wants to remain anonymous. While I can't remember anything weird happening to me in my younger years, this changed when I bought a home with my ex-partner. Since that time, bizarre incidents have happened that I truly can't attribute to anything but the supernatural. The first incident happened in early 2011. A heavy clock fell off the wall and rolled across the floor in the middle of the night. It was very secure. No way that thing could have come off by itself. Days later, we were sitting in the living room and heard something pop in the kitchen. I walked in there and a wine cork had flown across the kitchen and landed on the floor. The wine had been open and was half full, which was weird, but okay, not unexplainable.
Sure.
I was at work soon after that when my ex called frantic. She had been sitting in the living room when the microwave door in the kitchen just popped open by itself.
Ew.
After that, I started keeping a log of what was happening. Once we had family over and were watching TV when all of us saw something about knee high go flying down the hallway. I walked down to check it out, and of course, all the doors were shut and nothing was there. Then we came back from a vacation and found glass all over the sunroom. Part of a picture frame had fallen off the wall and busted, but the back and two sides of the frame were still hanging on the wall. Now, the frame had been twisted and broken, but there was no reasonable explanation for this.
Jeez, that's like so violent.
Yeah, it was just some old black and white photo of guys in a canoe that I picked up at Goodwill as well.
Okay, but that's an awesome photo.
I know. I kind of need to see this. At this point, whatever it was becoming destructive, and I started having serious concerns. I begged them out loud to please not destroy things and that I meant them no harm or ill will. Nothing else happened until my ex moved out and my now wife moved in. One night we woke up to the sound of the gas stove clicking.
No.
Like someone was turning it on. I pretty much shit my pants.
Yeah.
I took the dog with me and walked out into the kitchen, and sure enough, the burner was fully lit. Fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
About a month prior to this, I came home from work and swore I smelled gas in the house. I had to call the fire department, who came full-blown lights and sirens out to my house. They said I must have left the stove on and had shut it off for me.
So accusatory.
I know. I think the ghost had tried back then, but was only successful a month later in actually lighting the burner.
That is freaking crazy.
I should add that a friend who worked with a paranormal group did some research on my property. She didn't find much, but interestingly learned that it was once owned by a company that used Nazi prisoners of war as farm workers. Woo. Anyhow, I have a crazy story that happened to me at a Verbo in Hot Springs. If you're interested, yes, always. Have a great Halloween. And again, that one is anonymous.
Ooh, what a good story. Can you imagine being a ghost and like, I'm going to test my powers today?
Do you watch the show Ghosts?
No, you've told me to.
Anytime the ghosts like do something,
yeah.
It's so funny. They sit there and they have to like try over and over again. So I just see the pantsless ghosts in there trying to turn on the stove.
I love that.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
Great. All right, we have a story from Rhiannon. By the way, she was in our pregame, so you should definitely subscribe.
Yes.
Hey, gang. Hope you're well. I've got a story for you. I'm a nurse at a very old hospital and was walking down the hallway recently when I noticed there was a soldier standing at attention in every room. They hung around most of the morning, and I even saw one in the medication room. I asked my colleague, who is sensitive, have you been seeing soldiers standing around today? They've been here all morning. She said, yes, I have. They're waiting on the old man up the hallway. He was an ex-service member and he passed away about an hour later. The soldiers left when he did. I bet it was very nice for the old man to see his mates again.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's a really sweet story.
All right. So you guys have been so good about tagging us in any sort of cool, spooky stuff that shows up on social media. And that's how we found our next guest. His name is Lowell Stevens, and he is a real estate agent, but for specific types of houses. Someone tagged Haunted AF on your page because you were talking about, as a real estate agent, how to tell when a house is haunted. I like just now went and watched the rest of your TikToks, and you've got a great page, but it's not about real estate at all. You're like,
no, not really. My day job, I'm a real estate agent. I actually started the page because I have a clothing brand. And so I was like, well, it's an attention economy. I need to get attention.
Oh, give us a little bit about your clothing line.
I'm actually wearing one of the pieces now. When I was a teenager, I was a skateboarder. I was a mall goth, whatever. And I wanted to like create clothes that I could wear without feeling like I was, cosplaying a Hot Topic employee. So, so I started working on like more gothic clothing that weren't like super edgy.
So the TikTok that we saw, you were talking about how to know if a house is haunted. And you were giving tips about this, especially as a real estate agent, because you were saying there were obvious clues whenever you walked into a place. So what were your tips?
The tips that I had initially is that when you walk into a haunted house, in my experience, there's a major temperature difference. They're always really chilly. The very first one I ever went into, I had been in real estate like a month, walked in, it was legitimately like 55, 60 degrees inside the house. Outside is like 85. And this is like 100-year-old farmhouse. They had no HVAC for like a year, right? So it was freezing cold. That one was weird because there was actually what I feel like two entities at that property, because in the back of the house, they had a barn, like a really, really old former tobacco barn. And I walked up the stairs because I had been told there was like a recreational room up there. I walked in and it looked like a funeral parlor from the 50s or like an old chapel or something. It was crazy. So I was doing a FaceTime with my client and we were walking around. I was like, he's like, what is this? And I was like, I guess this is like where you meet your cult members or something.
Yes.
So he's like, okay, all right, cool. I've seen what I need to see. He hung up. I started to walk across the floor, like the middle of the room towards the window. There's this window on the far end. And I swear to God, I felt this hand on my chest, like someone push on my chest. And so I stopped and I was like, that was really like bizarre. Okay. When I went downstairs, I looked in like the bottom floor of the barn and the floor was completely rotted through where I was going to walk.
Oh, so you think they were helping you out?
So whatever it was there was like stopping me from walking across the middle of the floor. However, whatever entity was in the house did not like me at all because I was like walking around looking at different things in the house. And man, it felt so oppressive and heavy. And I heard the back door slam and I like trying to do my job. So I just was like, I'm getting out of here. Like, just give me a minute. Let me lock up and I'll be gone. And then I kind of like felt like it like lifted a little bit, blocked up everything, left and didn't go back. So that was like my first experience.
So then do you end up telling whoever the potential buyer is that, hey, guess what? I kind of think this house is haunted, or do you just keep that little secret to yourself?
Buyers will always kind of like give you a vibe of who they are. And
True.
I've got like really religious clients sometimes that don't believe in ghosts, or just, you can tell it would ruin my credibility. So if I feel like a place is haunted, I'll phrase things in the way that they would expect. So I'll be like, I feel like there might be like a little bit of a spiritual presence here. But if I'm going to like a haunted house with like my less spiritual clients, I'll just be like, man, there's probably ghosts and shit in here. Like it feels like it. And they'll either laugh and take it as a joke, or if there's, if they are sensitive to that sort of thing, then they'll take me seriously and ask questions. So
has anybody ever been like, well, I don't want a ghost. I really like this house. Can you help me get rid of the ghost?
I've had people ask how to get rid of ghosts, and I'm not like a paranormal guy. I'm just trying to get a paycheck, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Now my whole thing is I want to get people in the house that they like. I'm not just trying to get you into any house. It's like, I want you to be happy. So I do know that smudging seems to work. And I do know an astrologer who has like offered to help me cleanse houses if I have clients that need it. And so like I've always offered that service. I haven't had anyone take me up on it yet.
Okay, you're going to have to tell us another haunted listing story.
So I've kind of gotten a reputation as being like the haunted house guy in this area.
Where are you?
I'm in West Kentucky,
right?
And I've sold like 3 haunted houses, and basically a lot of other realtors will like refer them to me if they're going to get a haunted listing, just because they know that I'm like, I can handle it. So the second haunted house that I ever listed and sold, lady had reports of people coming through the floor like up to chest level.
Whoa.
Yeah, tapping on the windows. I went into this house and it was filled with junk. I don't mean like cool junk. I mean like it was like a horror movie set. I have pictures. I'd love to
Oh
send them
yeah,
to you.
please.
And that had initially been a listing appointment by another realtor, and she was like,
No.
honey, I ain't going anywhere near that. You can have it. And I was like, I'll take it. Big house. It was on 6 acres and it was near a residential area, but You could not see it. It was so overgrown. And I sold it to some flippers. So, it worked out and they had no problem with the ghosts or whatever. But every time I was there would be deer, like 5 or 6 of them lining the edge of the property, just watching me. That was like really kind of nerve wracking. Because I've been around deer my whole life, right? I've never seen them just stand and watch someone at different points. You know what I mean? And the second thing that was weird about this, ticks and chiggers, like the little bugs and everything.
Yeah.
They were like in these thick black swarms and would just like hover in the air like when I was walking around. I was like, you know what, we got to disrupt the outside. So hired someone, got it bush hogged, and then some people from Arizona were like, hey, we're looking for a project house. And I was like, it's haunted, but it's cheap. And they're like, let's do it.
I have a quick question. Prior to you selling these haunted houses, did you ever have any encounters, like ghosty encounters?
Yeah. So I have one. My friends call this my ghost girlfriend. So I used to live in Korea. I was an English teacher from age 23 to 29. So I lived in this apartment that was provided by the school. And it was a fairly modern building. It was nice. But then upstairs, there was not one queen size bed. It was 2 twin beds next to each other. So I just kind of slept on one. I'm not going to sleep on the crack. It was after about like 3 months, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would see a woman sleeping next to me on the next bed. I would reach out to touch her and like gone, right? Then I play games. I love playing games. So I used to play video games downstairs at my desk. So like to my left, there was a hallway and then the doorway. There were occasions I would see a Korean woman watching me and I would turn my head and just gone. The thing that made me not scared is that there was one time that I was like running late for work. I had lost these keys that I needed. And I was like, can you help me find my fucking keys, please? And I left to go take out the trash. So I came back and the keys were sitting on my counter. And I know they had not been there because I just wiped off my counter. And then the second time I had lost my Breath of the Wild Switch games. I was like, hey, if you've seen my Switch game, can you give it to me? I just said this like out loud. I felt like an idiot. And I went upstairs and I had made my bed, right? So I had like shaken out the comforter and whatever. Like there was no way it was still on there. And it was sitting like right under my pillow.
Wow.
Are we doing the whole ghost thing wrong by saging? Like, is this not an opportunity to kind of have like an in-house invisible butler?
I would love that.
Some ghosts or entities are like really helpful and kind. I think they're
Yeah.
just staying around because they liked life. And some of them are obviously malevolent or just mindless and they're just angry.
Well, thank you so much, Lowell Stevens. And the TikTok page is at, would you say, Iron Bones?
Iron Bones.
And where can people find the clothing that you make?
So the clothing I make is called, it's Minimum is the brand, and it's minimumtextiles.com.
So our final story this week comes from Elsie. Hey, Julia and Rebecca, I have a story that's a little funny, a little heartbreaking, and definitely more than a little spooky. So naturally, I had to share it with you for the Dead Pet of the Week. So we need a theme song.
Who's that scratching at the back door? Who's that drinking out the toilet bowl? It's the Dead Pet of the Week.
And don't forget, we need your Dead Pet of the Week theme song. So
Absolutely.
send those along. All right. Meet Truffle, the French bulldog who was rescued at less than an hour old because she was born with a cleft palate. I tube fed her until she was weaned, and from the start, there was something special about her. Truffle was what we would lovingly call extra. She was loud, obnoxious, and absolutely the center of attention.
The best kind.
Maybe a little like me, to be honest. That's what Elsie says.
I love it.
One day, Truffle wasn't acting like her usual hyper self, so I took her to the emergency vet. This dumb vet looked at her and decided her neck was bothering her. So he sent her home with pain meds, no x-rays, nothing. 3 days later, my loud, annoying life of the party Frenchie was gone.
Oh, poor baby.
She was only 4.5 years old and it broke my heart. I blamed myself for not pushing harder and letting that vet make me question my intuition. Now, I run a rescue and I foster a lot of special needs dogs, so death isn't exactly new around our house. My husband has even referred to our garage freezer as dead puppy storage a time or two. Oh my God. But leave it to Truffle to be the one and only dog to actually haunt us.
Good girl, Truffle.
Because of course the diva just couldn't leave quietly. About a month after she died, I was getting ready for work when I heard a dog jump on our back door to be let in, clear as day. I went to open it, but there was nothing there. Then it hit me that I'd already put all the dogs in their crates. Even my husband, who doesn't believe in ghosts,
Of course he doesn't.
admitted that he felt her cuddling him in bed. or judging him whenever he was petting a new foster dog. Sometimes I'd be in the backyard and I'd see one of the bushes shaking violently, like something was rubbing against it, which was a classic Truffle behavior. At first, I felt guilty for listening to that vet, thinking maybe she was mad at me. But as time has gone on, I've realized Truffle's just hanging around, still being her ridiculous extra self. I think the guilt will always be there, and that's always the hardest part. We don't hear from her as often now, but I never knew just how much I cared for that little jerk until she was gone. Thanks for letting me share Truffle's story with you. I'm sure she'd be thrilled to know that she's still stealing the spotlight, and that is from Elsie.
That is such a wonderful dead pet of the week story.
It really is. And okay, if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you go to the companion blog at hauntedaf.com because she sent a ton of pictures.
I can't wait
Truffle.
to see little baby Truffle.
Truffle's so cute.
Of course she is.
Precious baby.
Oh, I love it so much. All right, guys. Now it's more important than ever to be following us on social media because we have got some appearances lined up.
Yeah.
We're super excited. We're going to be talking to a newspaper and we're going to be on a local TV show.
Woo.
So we're going to let you know when and where all that stuff is happening. So keep an eye out. And if you aren't local, we will post links so that you can check it out too, because we want you to be a part.
And of course, we need your stories. You guys have been sending amazing stuff lately, but we haven't gotten a ton of audio. So recording yourself is super easy. And if you can't figure out voice memo, you can always just film yourself. And if you're shy, you can just film your feet while you're talking and we'll just use the audio.
I have to tell you, my friend Lionel, who's from France, he's going to send us a voice memo story.
Oh.
I have no idea if his ghost story is any good. It may be complete garbage, but I think it'll be worth it just for you to hear the French accent.
Okay. Yes, please send it, Lionel. Send that to hauntedafpodcast@gmail.com so we can use all your stories next week on Haunted AF.